would you feel if you were poor but surrounded by rich people? Well, that's the story of residents of Apapa right here in Accra. Even though the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty LEAP program was introduced to eradicate extreme poverty, it seems the gap between the rich and the poor continue to widen. What, in your opinion, can be done to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor?
I think one way that the gap can be bridged is by trying to give both the rich and the poor the same equal opportunities, in the sense that the rich have ways and means to which they know that's fine. Maybe I'm working for this company, but I can run other businesses as well. And so maybe the company can decide that once we want to bridge that gap, we have business opportunities for both, and then help them to manage their businesses, so that it's not like one is getting richer and one is getting poorer.
The poor should be given equal opportunities as the rich, because I don't think the worth of a man's wealth is in the abundance of the things he has, which is to say there might be people who are poor but might be more intelligent. Do you get it? More intelligent than a rich person. There might be someone who is poor but might be more useful than a rich person. But I just think that the poor should be recognized just as the rich has been, and be given equal opportunities, because God didn't create, in fact, our fingers are not even the same.
I think the only way we can bridge the gap between the rich and the poor is education. The poor must educate themselves. When you go to school, you take your book seriously, you study, you also eventually become rich someday, because that's the only way for the poor to be rich.
All right, so let's check out what you've been posting on Facebook.
Maxwell Kwesi says, if we don't become intentional in tackling this menace, it's not going to end. No, it will not. Like we made laws for social security and taxes payment, I think we could make a law that requires well-to-do people in our communities to create ventures and for or employ the poor people to work. A national foundation could also be formed to equip the poor with skills that can give them a livelihood. This can close the gap a little, but giving material things and money to the poor is never a wise decision. James Abusanga says the poor in society should learn from the rich. They shouldn't think that the rich is rich because they are lucky to have come from a rich family background, because most rich people were once poor. And Isaac says MP salaries be slashed to the level of civil servants, and a huge chunk of money for V8 fuel and lavish living will help mend the gap.
And Burma Kwabaji from Jinijin says government must fashion out deliberate policies to get more from the rich to support the poor. Policies like reducing airfares and increasing lorry fares and paying fees for parents with kids in elite schools and those in community schools make the rich richer and the poor poorer. We must work things out to help the poor. Sadat Larry, and he writes in uppercase, the rich always continue to be rich and poor always poor. I think there should be readiness of jobs for the people and try as much to avoid personal interest and make a better life sweet for the poor, whatever that it is. That one, God, Allah is everything. Okay, I can't say. Right, and those are your comments on Facebook. Now, also, it's exactly a month since the atomic gas explosion, which claimed 7 lives and left scores injured, occurred. But government is yet to publish the investigative report, which contains what caused the deadly gas explosion and recommendations for the way forward. This brings back the conversation of several explosions, including the almighty June 3 disaster, the Teshi disaster, the Takrady gas explosion. I mean, just to mention a few that have been investigated, but reports yet to be made public. Question: are you worried about this trend?
Yes, indeed. There's something to be worried about, because at the end of the day, when something happens, we always set up committees to look into the matter. But the committee that they form, they don't bring out anything. They don't tell us what caused the explosion. They don't tell us what caused the fire or any other thing. They just set up the committee and form the committee. People just sit down, take our monies and spend it the way they want without bringing the results and even solutions to solve the problems that we are currently facing.
Yes, I'm worried because we don't know what caused it actually. Maybe it may be, some way saying it was a chinchinga seller that made it happen. But me, I don't know. So we have to know the source so that maybe we are doing similar things in our home that caused that explosion. So if we don't know, how will you know that what you are doing can lead to explosion? So we have to know about it.
Yes, sure.
Why?
Because we haven't received the official reports, and then we don't know if any disaster could happen anywhere again. Of course, it can happen anywhere, but they have to give us the reason why it happened. What is the cause? What is the solution to put to it? And see to other things that it doesn't happen again, because a lot of people have lost their lives. Families have lost their loved ones.
I am. Because some way, somehow, I feel it might lead to another explosion. If they know that, oh, this is the cause, I think they would, it would help them in the prevention of it, but they don't know. So I feel some way, somehow, it might lead to another explosion.
And that's not all. A lot more is on our Facebook page. Let's check it out.
Abu Bakari says, what investigative report do we need again? We have to start building fireproof walls on gas stations, relocate some of the gas stations that are situated in residential areas, use gas leak detectors, and finally regular maintenance of gas lines. And Ernest says a lot of cronies will be affected should it be published and government forced or pressure to implement the recommendations. Civil society must use the law courts to fight for the release of such vital information. If government is not ready to open up, at least we can do this whilst waiting for the RTI bill. And Nasser says, where is the Chichinga journalist final report on the explosion? Oh, just not to you.
Krugu James says, doing something good for yourself and forget government. Who is government? We are government or president. Your concerns is to win power. Okay, for the president, their concern is to win power, not to help solve problems. Selassie Wangana says, is it the government doing the investigation or the police? And who is supposed to release the information to the public? Just want to know. Coles Kate Douglas says, okay, so the investigation was done by the fire service, and the fire service says the report is ready, but it's still not it's not in the public domain. And then Kule says, yes, we should, because as a nation, we need to be proactive rather than wait for the havoc to occur before taking actions. Thomas Simon says, what report do you want again? Don't you trust anything on cheating? Interesting comments on Facebook. Now, finally, what if your president gives an ultimatum for all cohabiting partners to get married before the end of 2017? Or risk having access to free education and medical care for your children? Well, this is a directive from the government of Burundi explaining that the move will help moralize the society and protect women. Failure to do so, the Burundian government says any child born out of wedlock will not enjoy free education and medical care, period. Well, some have embraced it. Others feel it's an infringement on their rights. Fast forward to Ghana. Do you think such a law should be passed in Ghana to instill morality and protect women?
I feel marriage is a choice. If I'm like, okay, so what if the people are not, like, they are not yet ready to marry and they don't have the means? Because it's not just about the mass wedding ceremony, but it's about like what goes on after the marriage. If the people are not ready, like how are they going to live if, for instance, the couple do not have like any means of living?
No, I don't think so. Sincerely, I don't think so. I still stand by what I said, that we are not dealing with the same problem. Ghana's productivity is high, especially in most companies. Looking at the private sector, the companies in the private sector, their productivity is very high. And even with the public sector or the government sector, it's still the same. So I don't think that we have the same problem, and so Ghana shouldn't pass the same law.
Well, I think that law should not be passed in Ghana. First and foremost, I think it's really problematic that people put age limits on when to get married. People get married when they really want to get married. So really, there shouldn't be any time factor, or there shouldn't be any time ceiling on when people should get married. And that law, for me, really is flawed.
It's going to benefit, and it's also not going to benefit. It's going to benefit in such a way that it's going to lessen the teenage pregnancy, and it's also not going to benefit in such a way that some people are not yet ready to get married. So with that, it will be like a forced marriage on them, and the marriage might not work out. It's a 50-50.
Thank you.
So while waiting for Parliament to pass that bill, maybe we should consider this one too.